Hi guys, it's Sunday, May 7th. All right, so May is starting off with some very, very warm weather. Right now, according to my thermostat in my car, it's 85 degrees out. I was out of the house about 9:15. I stayed in the house up until 8 a.m. and I was watching this really interesting show on YouTube, and when that was done, I had a light breakfast of a half a cup of cereal with a whole banana sliced in there with some low-fat milk. I took a quick shower, got dressed, and I was out driving around Siesta Beach. So anyways, on the way back home, this thought came to my mind. It's something that someone has been asking me for quite some time, and it's not just one person, it's many people. When I tell them about the relationship of me and my son, I'll have more about that when I come back. Okay, so the relationship with me and my son, there are several reasons why we're not close, and there are several reasons why we're so divided, and why our relationship is incredibly weak. The number one reason for our relationship not being as great and why we don't talk, first of all, I want to let you know that it's not my decision whether I talk or not. Never in my life do I want to block my son from communicating with me. Never in my life do I not want to have a relationship with my son. It's my intention to be a close and loving parent. But the number one reason why children separate themselves from one of the parents is because of divorce. It's not because I had a gender change, not so much. It's not because I abused him. It's not because I ignored him. The number one reason why our relationship has not been close after he turned his late teens is because of divorce. The number two reason, I would say, might be because of my gender change. But that is not the number one reason. You see, let's go back to the divorce part. Me and my first ex, we filed for divorce in 2001. At that time, my son was about 10 years old. That means that I raised him up until he was 10. And when I moved away from Massachusetts, I stayed in close contact with my son. I would pick him up, to come to stay with me in Florida every year for about the next 5 years. The next 5 years. That would put him at about 15 or 14 years old. And that was a very changing time for him as well. He's just past puberty. He's developed a lot of friends, mainly guys. He's showing interest in girls. So the idea of him having a father that's gone through gender change when he, as a teenager, is witnessing his friends' parents as being normal, that puts him in a place where he can't explain to his friends if his friends found out. So there was a little bit of shame and embarrassment on his end. And also, if I went through a divorce in 2001 and he was only 10 years old, the divorce itself is a big shock for him. You picture a child being born, and the first thing he comes to love is his parents. Number one, his mother. Number two, his father. So the divorce was a big factor. And the number one and number two, I would have to say the gender change and the relocating away from Massachusetts to live in Florida. If I had stayed at least in Massachusetts and gone through my physical changes, I think our relationship would have been much better, but nobody knows. People ask me, why did you go to Florida to live? I've always liked Florida, but the number one reason I came here is because I wanted to transition away from family and friends. Okay? I didn't feel comfortable working in Massachusetts while going through my changes and having to see family and friends and my son questioning me why I'm doing the things that I'm doing. So therefore, when I moved away from Massachusetts, I pretty much severed my relationship with my son. But I didn't think it was going to be severed. It wasn't my intention. My intention was wherever I decided to live, I was going to maintain a close contact with my son. I would call him every week. I would go up there to visit. I did all those things. I picked him up every year up until he was 14 or 15. Every year, I would either drive up there or fly up there, pick him up, and take him back with me. We would just spend time together. You would think if I did those things, also send birthday cards and birthday gifts and Christmas cards, those things never stopped. I kept doing those things up until he was in his early 20s. In his early 20s and late teens, early 20s, it was a very challenging time for us. He's becoming a man. He's making his own decisions. He's standing up for what he believes in. And I might have taken some of those things as if he didn't want to have nothing to do with me or whatever. We've had some pretty heated moments and conversations where one of us would hang up on each other and we wouldn't hear each other for months. So those are the reasons why the relationship with my son is extremely, extremely weak, if not nil, non-existent. So I remember one time when he was just 10 years old and I went to go pick up my son at his private school where he used to be. It was a Catholic school. And that was at a tough time because me and my ex were going through a divorce, and my son was not taking it well. It hurt him right to the bone. I can see it. I remember what he did in school when I went to go pick him up, and the teacher said, "I need to talk to you for a moment." He said, "Your son called another student an asshole." At just 10 years old, he did this. He called another student an asshole. And I told the teacher that me and his mother are going through a divorce, and he's taking it very hard. On an impulse, I did something very bad when he did that. I scolded him and I said, "Don't do that." But I yelled at him. And then he stood in the back seat of my car crying. And he said, "I don't want you to leave." That cut right through me. That cut deep right through me. And at the time, I didn't see that, but it did, because every single one of his birthdays, and often that will sink into my head like a cattle prod. It was incredibly heart-wrenching for me to replay what he said. But my son went through hell and back too, while me and my ex was going through a divorce. This little boy loved me. There's nothing that he could probably do to make me unlove him, or be extremely upset with him, or even hate him. I cannot do those things. I love my son to the core. To the core. When I see him when he was young, and even now, I just see another me. I really do, but he doesn't see that. There was another time when my second ex filed for divorce. That made divorce number 2. When my second ex moved away to go live with her family in Las Vegas, that left just me and my son. And we had just bought a home a year before, and me and my son were home alone. And my son said to me, "It's okay, Dad, we don't need her." The way he said it struck a chord with me. He said "we," not just me, but he said he didn't need her. That's what "we" stands for. Me and him do not need her. She left us. Sometimes I think about that, and I can imagine what he said to my first ex-wife when I left. He could have said to her, "We don't need him because he's leaving us. We don't need him." My son is a very strong young man, and he was a very strong young boy. He saw my love. He saw my love as a father and a parent and a husband, as someone who deserted them or gave up on them. Children blame themselves for many of the divorces that happen in society because they're confused. In their minds, they see a parent who's always been there right from the get-go, and now they're leaving. I'm telling you right now, my life has been such a learning curve that you can't fathom. Only another parent who's gone through what I've been through would understand. Anyways, back to the story. Me and my son were home alone after my second ex left, and again I broke his heart for the 3rd time, and I didn't see it that way. Maybe I was being selfish. I just don't know. But I was so focused on my personal changes that I may have been. I sat him down by the side of the bed and I told him that I was going to move back to Florida. He cried and he screamed. He says, I can't do this anymore. He says, Dad, I can't do this anymore. To me, it was like taking a fish out of water and the fish cannot breathe anymore. You took the fish out of the water, you take him of all his oxygen that he had coming through his gills, and you want the fish to keep breathing. My son's voice sounded like he was all choked up, like he couldn't breathe. Almost like I put my hand over his mouth. It has sunk in now for many, many years why my son doesn't really have anything to do, doesn't want to have anything to do with me. Because I hurt him too much. I hurt him too much. I've thought about so many ways that I can make it up to him, even by moving back. But I keep saying to myself, there can be no guarantees if I move back that he'll want to have anything to do with me. Just 3 weeks ago, I texted him, and he had blocked me on his phone. And he said, I texted him, I told him that I was moving back there, that my home was up for sale, and I have intentions on buying another home there. And then I told him that we have a lot to talk about. But he misconstrued it as maybe a negative drama that stems from family. And then he said to me, there's nothing to talk about. And he said that he's sick and tired of me getting him involved with situations. That conversation wasn't about getting him involved in situations. He just assumed. And then he told me that he's sick of it and that he's going to block me again. But if you're asking me why me and my son don't have a relationship, the things I have described to you at the beginning to the end of this video is why me and my son don't have a relationship. I love my son to death. I love him. But realize too that I'm going to be 58 years old and I can't spend the rest of my life beating myself up to try to make my son accept me or even want to have part of my life anymore. I need to look a different direction and do those things that make me happy, because my life is ticking away. Also, I'm going to be 58 years old. You see the grays in my head? Yeah, I'm going to be 58 years old in a couple of weeks. And right now I'm leasing this townhome. So I could take these next 8 months to decide where I want to live. Do I want to sacrifice anything to go up to Massachusetts and possibly rekindle a relationship with my son anymore? I don't know. I can't put all my eggs in one basket just because he may want to have something to do with me. If he called me up today and said, you know, Dad, life's not perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. I want you to be happy, and I like to be in your life somehow. I definitely want to be in his life, but I can't force myself into it. Many times when you push yourself to be in somebody's life, you end up pushing them further away. And in some cases, years and years ago, I did that. He ended up telling me, just because you're coming here for a week doesn't mean I'm going to spend every day with you. That was after not seeing him for 4 years. And him telling me there's nothing to talk about when we haven't seen each other for 3 or 4 years now, boy, that seals everything that I've ever wished for. It seals everything. It just makes everything obsolete. It makes everything obsolete. It's hard, guys. It's very difficult. He's my only son. And I am in some ways going on with my life here. I have to know that the telephone rings both ways. Airplanes fly both ways, not just one way. Okay? So, those are the reasons why my son wants nothing to do with me. He has really used some harsh words with me in the past that I never thought he would. He told me one time that I always wanted to be a nurse. Sure I did. Do I want to put the time in to be a nurse? My mind was going back and forth on that, so I never became a nurse. He held that against me. He said, you wanted to be a nurse. You said you come to Florida to be a nurse. You've never become a nurse. And I explained to him that I really don't want to do that. He turned around and he said to me, what a waste. I took it as my life's a waste. My life's not a waste. I would never tell anybody that their life's a waste, because there's somebody doing what they want to do. So we got into an argument about that. And then the same twist of words, he turned around, he called me an asshole, and he hung up. Never spoke again. The next time we spoke was when I went up there to go motorcycle riding with my brother and his friends. It was my idea, it was my plan to do this, and he ended up ignoring me the entire day, didn't talk to me. The only interaction I had with him was when I first saw him, when he met us. I gave him a hug and I told him I loved him. That was it. For the next 8 hours or 10 hours I was up there with my brother and my son and his friends, he totally blew me off and didn't talk to me. Every time I tried to jump in any conversation that they were having, he would just have a very degrading look to him towards me, like he was looking down at me. And those things hurt me. At the end of the evening, when I finally got up and I went grocery shopping with my brother's girlfriend, I left my son there at her house with my brother, and my son took it personal and he got up and he left. But the rest is history. I've been bending backwards for my son. I've been doing so many things for my son. I've defended him. I've listened to him. I've gave him advice. Never did I ever belittle him. Never did I ever call my son any angry or mean words. Never. Never laid my hands on my son to abuse him or to hurt him. Never. Never. I never did that. When I was there, when he was young, I was always a loving father, a loving parent. Taught him how to ride a bicycle. We'd stay up and watching movies. We went for walks. We talked. I would take him wherever I would go. I don't know what to say. I mean, I've done everything I can do. And he doesn't want to have nothing to do with me. But what makes it worse for me is that me and my brother, we don't get along. My brother is a very abusive person, very angry, abusive person. I can't even blame him 100% for his anger. His anger seems to be towards everyone. My parents, my brother, me, his exes, even his current girlfriend that he just got married to. When I was up there in Massachusetts visiting my son, when all these was happening, my sister-in-law confided in me that my brother had been abusive to her, almost killed her, and how she discovered cocaine on her bureau in her bedroom. She grilled her sons. Her sons swore up and down it wasn't them. And she finally asked my brother, and my brother said it wasn't him. From the stories that his ex-girlfriends told his wife was that my brother was involved in a coke binge, a cocaine binge, that he would just spend most of his earnings on buying cocaine, marijuana, and all that stuff. The first thing that came to my mind was that she found the cocaine on her bureau was because my brother was snorting coke on her bureau, but didn't have the audacity to tell the truth. So when I got back to Florida, my sister-in-law kept calling me to seek advice from how my brother's been behaving in her home, because they live together there in her house. My brother was abusive, threatening, leaving the house at all kind of hours of the night, meeting other women to do coke and his coke friends. It came to a point that my brother knew that I was talking to her because she was calling me. When I confronted my brother about these things, we got into a bitter argument. You see, me and my brother have been arguing ever since we were young. We were always opposed to one another. We never got along. We had different friends. We never saw eye to eye. And you know what kills me the most? My son is a lot closer to him than he is with me. I never told my son that my brother pulled a knife on me when he was just 16 years old. I never told my son that my brother pulled a knife on my parents, and we had the police cop cars swarming all over our house because my brother was a druggie and was violent, in and out of jail all the time. In my son's eyes, he might be a better person than me, and that's what kills me. It kills me. It kills me that me and my brother have never got along, and that's who my son is gravitating to. And my son wants to be a cop. Why would somebody want to be a cop, yet so close with someone who's had such a shady past? All of these things hurt me. It hurts me. I can only imagine that one day my brother will do something stupid that his wife will regret, and that my son will finally see that he's really not a great person. He's a person with issues. I'm not trying to say that I'm the better person. I'm not trying to say that I'm perfect. But I'd like to say one thing is I hope that one day my son wakes up and sees things for what they are. Sees things for what they are. These are the reasons that me and my son don't get along. Sometimes I think, do you think my brother has said negative things about me to my son to cause more separation? I know that in the past my parent have, because my parents did not believe that deep inside me that I'm a woman. they were totally opposed to me coming out and transitioning. Yes, I believe that my parents also might have clouded my son's mind with a lot of negativity. And so has my brother. So has my brother. And one of the biggest reasons why I will not go back to Massachusetts to live is because of all the drama that's there waiting for me. And I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. If my son wants to have something to do with me, all he's got to do is pick up the phone. All he's got to do is pick up the phone. But anyway, I hope you guys understand why I'm distant from my family and why my son is distant from me. The divorce, the moving away, and quite possibly my gender change and negativity from my parents and my brother. It has affected me to some degree, but every day I wake up and I say to myself, tomorrow's going to be a new day. I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm going to move towards my objectives. I'm going to work hard and I'll get the things I want in life. They necessarily may not be material things, but it'll be things in my life that will make me feel happy. You know, something that may be more manageable or more productive. It may be something that's worth me working for, whether it be a home or maybe planning a vacation. Something's got to give here. And in 7 to 8 months, when I begin looking for a new home and a new area to live, I think I'll be much, much happier. Not that I'm not happy now. I am happy now because my life is coming together. I know where I've been and I know where I'm going. And I know what I'm not. I hope you guys have a nice weekend. Tomorrow, guys, I gotta go to the DMV and pick up my second title for this car. That'll make me feel happy as well. Not because I have a fancy car to drive, because it's a sense of accomplishment. It's a sense of accomplishment. Hope you guys have a nice weekend. I'll be talking to you guys very, very soon.